Hey, my name is Jay Martin, and this is a game in the NTW3 mod, and I've been playing this a bit over the last couple days, so I've got some more information to share with you and just kind of show you a demonstration game of what's going on. In this game, you got a bunch of Huntsman players. Sweden right there, that's Z Bishop. I'm Poland, that's me right there, and then if we move up the map, Austria, that's Leonidas. Kraz is Italian player. You can't see much of him yet. Mahakar is playing as somebody. I don't know who that is. I got the graphics on ultra. Whoa. Got the graphics on ultra high, and I wanted to point this out. These guys are wearing wigs. Okay, they're wearing wigs into battle. That's either like super hardcore or super lame. You make the call. It's one or the other. And then playing as another nation. I think maybe this is Bavaria. Let me try to get you a good look at the Bavarian flag. That's T-Bone right there. So here come some of T-Bone's guys. Nice helmets, man. Nice fucking helmets. Anyway, the reason you can't see all of the units, if you look at the mini-map, you can see a lot of units. You can't see them yet, like Kraz's Italians, for instance, is that this game has this cool function, the Fog of War. And that is that when the game spawns, you don't immediately see everybody. You have to actually have one of your units in visual range. And you see Kraz's units start to pop up right there. One of your units has to be in visual range to actually see the enemy units. And that's kind of cool. So at the beginning of the game, you might send a light cav unit up to kind of scout around. But you can't. If you look at the mini-map, you can notice a lot of blue units that should be there aren't there. Well, that's because they haven't spotted him yet, and I'm sure that more T-Bone's units are going to be popping up here, but this Fog of War thing is actually pretty cool. You don't know what you're fighting against until you get close enough to see him, and that's, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, so Fog of War, that's the deal. I've learned a little bit about the protocol for playing this particular mod, and there's one really neat thing that is, I guess, developed amongst the community. T-Bone over there is, I guess, one of the kind of beta testers for this, so he has a lot more experience than any of the rest of us do. And he was saying that the protocol that developed for faction choice is kind of neat. What you do is you and your opponent, so if it's a 1v1, then one player. If it's a 3v3, the player opposite you. But one of the two of you will nominate two factions. So in this case, it was Z and Z nominated Sweden and Poland. And then the other guy picks one of the two, and then you take the leftover one. So what happened is, I said, all right, Z, who are you picking? And Z picked Sweden and Poland. And then I, of the two, chose Poland, which left Z with Sweden. I think that's kind of a neat way to do multiplayer maps, because you can't do anything stupid like France versus Netherlands, because then your opponent will pick France, right? And you'll be stuck with Netherlands. But so it's kind of neat, a neat little way of balancing out. So I might try to start implementing that, like in my own Napoleon play, like when I do a 1v1. I don't know. I think it's kind of neat. There's some Jaegers going. And then the second kind of protocol thing is they have these really cool maps. They call them lines of communication maps, I believe. And if you look at the minimap here, let me make that a little bigger for you. Notice these big stars on the map. These two here represent our deployment zones, and then there's a couple other put around the map. The way the idea for this is that most of these games have a default timer set to 1 hour, and the idea is that after an hour, whoever controls more of the stars or the lines of communication points, you decide the game based on points. So you don't necessarily get a draw based on just time expiring, but when time expires, the idea is that whoever controls the stars gets to claim... Gosh, keep hiccuping. Whoever controls the stars gets to claim the victory, which is kind of cool. Which is actually pretty cool. It's kind of similar to what they try to do in Shogun, but in Shogun, obviously, it just gives you some kind of bonus, like to stamina or something, but in this way, it wins you the game. Now, something to realize when you play this, these stars aren't hard-coded in the game, so it doesn't automatically give a win to those players, but the players kind of have to adjudicate amongst themselves that, hey, we control more stars, we win, right? Which kind of makes sense to me. Ooh, big cat fight over here. Yeah, and so those are kind of just a couple little protocol things that I learned about playing the game, and I've isolated and figured out a couple differences. Let's look at a square. A couple differences that you might want to be aware of. Oh, he's reloading. I thought he got shot. A couple differences that you might want to be aware of. First of all, I love the musket sounds. Listen to this. Of course, they're not shooting now, but the sounds of the muskets firing is different, obviously. And I also like you can hear the little horns blowing in the background, like that. Whenever you give an order to a unit, it blows a little whistle, you know, like, which is kind of cool. So if you give a bunch of orders, like at the beginning of the game when you're moving your whole army forward, you can hear all these little. This is a devastating charge from Leo. These guys kind of have a hobby of ganging up on me, and this is Leo coming in to destroy my artillery. I'm just kind of... I actually, honestly, I really fucking suck at this. I'm really not good at this mod. So Leo just trades one of his cav for both my artillery batteries, which is probably a good move. But I think I've played 5, 6, 7 games of this. I think I've been on the winning team once. I'm really bad at it. But it is cool. It is cool. And that's a look over there. Kraz has got a line against Leo. And then Mahakar, what he's doing, if you look at the minimap, it makes more sense. But he's pulling back on the other side of this river here. It's kind of weird that the river is brown. I don't know if that's realistic or not. For some reason, I turned my graphics to ultra high for this. And somehow I doubt that it's actually on ultra high. I'm not really sure what to think about it. But this is T-Bone getting around the guy's flank. Okay, so a couple differences, and if you want to continue watching this, this is me completely getting my ass kicked over here. A couple differences that I've noticed between this and regular Napoleon. The first one is the fog of war issue that I mentioned earlier. The second is that light infantry really isn't a big deal in this version. In regular Napoleon, light infantry really are incredibly powerful, and they often dictate a lot of times the path of the game or the path of the infantry fight. Lights really aren't that big a deal in this game. There's two kind of lights in this game. The first is really indistinguishable from regular line. I believe that line infantry in this version have a range of 70, and the majority of the light infantry also have a range of 70. There are a few exceptions to this. And those are skirmishers, and the skirmishers equivalent to the rifles in regular have a range of 80, so it's only like 10 points better, so 70 versus 80. And most nations, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is the deal, most nations can bring one unit. See this big unit right here? It's got 112. That's like my big Jaeger unit, or my big rifle unit. Most nations can bring one of those and one only. And then your other options for if you want ranged skirmishers are you're getting units of like 30 men. They're pretty cheap because there's only 30 men in them, but they're really hard to use effectively because another facet in this game is that you can't run through your line. Like, you know, in Napoleon, you can charge cav like right through your line infantry. You can't do that in this game, which is more realistic. So if you have skirmishers and you're trying to retreat them, you can't like retreat them through your line, so it's a little awkward to use them. But the bottom line is that light infantry are not nearly as powerful in this game as they are in regular Napoleon. This is Z giving me some canister right here. What a fucker. God, just always getting me with the canister. But anyway, so light infantry is not quite as good in this game. But you can get skirmishers. However, they're really small units. One of the weird things about buying units in this game is different units might have different unit sizes. Like Kraz's line unit here has 123 men, but then an Austrian unit right there is 153. So there's a ton of variables. There's so many fucking units, and there's a ton of variables in how the units are priced and then what you're getting for that money, okay? Oh, that was actually the third thing I was talking about, was that diversity in the units. And a good example is the different types of units you can bring and the amount of men in them. And then the different nations have a bunch of different options. And part of me, I'm kind of on the fence, like, if this is good or bad, but I hover over that unit right, and it says Regno d'Italia. I have no idea what the fuck that means. Like, I'm sure this is just a familiarity with the game and I need to memorize the units and everything, but it's kind of frustrating when you're a new player and you have a unit and you're like, all right, what is a Bow Midsha Fusilier? Like, I don't know if that's a militia unit. I don't know if that's a line unit. I don't know if that's an elite unit. Fuck, that could be a light infantry unit for all I know. You know, so it's a little frustrating when you're starting because there are a bunch of factions. I don't know, like 15 factions maybe, and they all have a bunch of units, and you kind of need to learn all the different units, and I haven't learned them yet, so it's a little frustrating for me as a newer player because I'm not really sure what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm not really sure what the capabilities of a unit are. Like, if I hover over an old guard, I can be like, okay, I know that unit's badass, but I don't really know what's going on, so... Anyway, that is kind of the deal with the unit diversity. There is a ton of it, which is a good thing, and the deal is that I just kind of need to learn those units, and if you pick up this mod, you're going to need to learn all the units as well. Like, we played a game the other day, and I just got my ass kicked with this one flank, and I didn't know why, and it turns out that it was the Waterloo scenario, and I just didn't get the fact that, like, my Dutch infantry was essentially militia. You know what I mean? And so, like, I had one flank full of Dutch militia, essentially, and I didn't know they were militia, and so I got my ass kicked. But you're going to want to pay attention to that, especially if you're starting out, because you won't know what all of the units do. The fourth thing that I think I'd mentioned about this mod is that I think that cavalry have been implemented incredibly well. And the reason I say that is they actually take a fair amount of skill to use properly. In some situations, if you use your cav poorly, they will do jack shit and just die. Like, they will die instantly. However, in other situations, if you use your cav well, they will completely fuck shit up. A good example of that is... we were playing another game the other day, and I was actually doing pretty well. I was on the flank of a 3v3, and I was doing pretty well. Like, I had Z. I had Z on the run, and I kind of advanced my infantry a little too far, and then all of a sudden, Leo showed up with 2 cav units, and just had perfectly timed and perfectly placed charges, and my entire flank, actually my entire army, just completely disappeared. And in that game, myself, I pretty much just wasted 3 cav units that did absolutely nothing. And he used his cav a lot better than I did, so he deserved to win. But the point is that if you use your cav poorly, then they will do absolutely nothing. If you use your cav well, they will do a large amount of stuff. So I really like the way that cav is implemented. It's a lot different than regular Napoleon. You have to be incredibly careful with them and use them when they are really, really needed. And then the other thing I noticed is that there's a wide diversity amongst the nations in the quality of their cav. Look at Z getting around my flank right here. There's a large diversity in the quality of the cav. And what I've noticed too is that because, as I mentioned earlier, cav can't charge through the back of your line, and if doing a frontal charge against an infantry unit is suicide anyway. So what you do then is you have to use your cav like on your flanks, or you have to be really careful when you use them in the center of your line. So what you notice, and this is probably true to real life, but you wind up getting these big cav on cav fights like on the flank. And if your opponent has better cav than you, then they're going to win. So you want to be really careful when you do one of those cav engagements to make sure that you have the better cav, or that you have more cav, or that you have a backup plan or something like that. So the way cav works in this game is a bit different than the way it works in regular Napoleon. Just something to kind of be aware of. Okay, the fifth little difference I wanted to notice is that terrain as an obstacle is much more stricter. That doesn't make sense. Is more strict. There you go. Like a cav unit moving through trees. I notice this varies from map to map a lot, but on some maps, if you try to move a cav unit through a tree, they will just take forever. Or there's going to be little like marshy areas or little swamps or something like that. And you got to be really careful about where you're moving your cav. Don't move your cav through trees. That's a bad idea. You know, you got to be really careful. Like an artillery unit will take forever to walk through a forest. Okay, so you got to be really careful about. And then the sixth thing on the terrain thing is that what I really like about these maps is that the terrain is very, very subtle. Like there are hills here, but in Napoleon it's almost too easy, I noticed, because the terrain features are so dramatic that you know when you're on an elevation. But in this game I catch myself zooming down to ground level a lot just to make sure that I'm not shooting into the dirt, and that actually happens a fair amount. Like the hills here are more realistic on these maps, so the rises and falls of the terrain is like, let's look at this road here, is so subtle that when you're looking at it zoomed out, like in a normal, like let's say this is your normal game playing view, you wouldn't even notice. That looks like grassy flats, right? But you really need to zoom in and really, you could find out that you've had a unit shooting at the dirt for a while, okay? So one thing I really, really like about this mod is that the terrain is a lot more subtle. I think that'll benefit players who, take the time to zoom in and check that out. So I kind of like that. It adds a little extra degree of I don't want to keep saying realism, but a little extra degree of skill tester right there. A little extra degree. So what is going on in this game? It looks like Z, who's Sweden, has kind of been kicking my ass, and I'm just kind of fighting him a little bit. I'm kind of fighting him. They are pushing us back pretty good. Kraz has showed up to cover my flank for me, but we got a problem. They're moving more and more cav this direction. A really powerful strategy in this game, just like it is in regular Napoleon, is just to, if you can overwhelm one area with some cav, that you're gonna do pretty well. Like all those little Bavarian cavs or Mahas from the other side of the map. And it looks like I am chasing Z back a little bit right here, but I'm not. I don't play very well in this game. I should have put a game up where I did better, honestly. But I've been having trouble saving replays of this, so this is pretty much the best you're going to get. And actually, thanks to Leonidas for sending me this replay, because I didn't even manage to get this one saved. I'm going to kick it into fast forward. Honestly, the game is pretty competitive right now. We're using this house here as a hinge point, is what we're doing. And yeah, so we're just fighting on this. I don't remember what this map was. I think maybe it was like there's so many fucking maps, but it was like France 7 LOC. That'll make sense if you actually have the mod and you can look it up, but that is what's going on. This is probably me making a little bit more of a mistake. I just advanced too fast in this game. You can't advance like you do in regular Napoleon. And I notice in a lot of the games that I've lost the majority of the games that I've played in this, and a huge flaw is like I'll blunt their initial attack, but then I'll counterattack too much, or I'll be too aggressive on the counterattack, and then I'll just totally get spent. It'll completely destroy me. Yeah, not pretty. Whose general is that? Is that me? Another thing is that T-Bone was telling me, I don't have data for this, but was that the death of the general is not really as big a deal in this. So, that was Z. Somehow we killed Z's general. The death of a general is not really as big a deal in this game. So, just something to keep in mind. And you notice, you look at the little general bodyguard, they only start with 6 men in it. And I think actually, if I understand this correctly, the general bodyguard unit is like hard-coded to not be able to attack. Look at Z flank me. Yeah, this is probably one of those instances where I counterattack too hard. Z's such a fucker, man. He like always kicks my ass at Napoleon. It's not even fair. It's really not even fair. Ah, man. Looks like we did pretty good on the center rose line there. But anyway, you can obviously tell by looking at the game that the pretty much all the action is going on in our flank, or my flank right here, with Kraz helping out, and these guys just blasting away at each other. I don't know what happened to Kraz's artillery. wonder if he even still has it. Yeah, there you go. 12-pounder. That's probably my general dying. Let's check that out. Yeah, that's me. And then you can see that's Maha moving a bunch of cav over. Oh, that's right. My army starts to like chain route right here. Like Maha's cav shows up and completely fucking destroys me. Just completely destroys me. I think I get squares up too late. Completely destroys me. Yeah, look at that. I had like 8 line units like 30 seconds ago. I have 3 line units now, and I'm about to lose the rest of them. Like just, yeah, there they all go. Oh man, I just got fucking destroyed. But, you know, I should have held the line, man. Too aggressive. Incremental advantage. I should be more interested in doing that. And now Kraz has to retreat to try to... shit, yada yada yada. And Maha's got these guys walking around. I don't know. T-Bone does at least realize that we have a problem now, so he starts to engage Maha a little better. You can see that both these players have the one super badass Jaeger unit. The one super badass Jaeger unit is super badass. I'm kind of like, it's such a unique unit in the mod. I kind of am like, why does this exist? You know what I mean? Like it's I want to say it's almost out of flavor for the rest of the mod, but I don't really know. I don't really understand. It's just so different than every other unit in the mod. I kind of don't get it. Oh, what I wanted to notice, I don't know if the any of the Lords guys watch these videos that I do, but love the mod, obviously. But one thing that would be nice is, you know the little unit icons in regular Napoleon? Like you have a unit icon for cav and line infantry and light infantry. It would be nice to have those, because maybe as an option that you can turn on and off, I don't know. But it is a little frustrating for regular player or newer players who are doing this to figure out exactly what kind of unit they're dealing with. Like maybe have a different one for like an elite unit and a different one for a regular line unit or something like that. But those little unit icons really actually help. So I don't know if... I'm sure that the developers didn't include them. They either had a good reason to not include them or they were unable to include them, one or the other. But if you could include them, maybe as an option to turn them on and off, that would be nice. That would be nice. So I don't know if that's an option or not. That was me being stupid. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so embarrassing. Kraz got really pissed at me when I did that, actually. Sorry, Kraz. I know you got pissed at me. I won't do it again. I learned my lesson. And, yeah. I think we get our ass kicked at this point, is what happens. Leo and Z are really, really good at this mod, by the way. I think they've been playing it for a while. They're really fucking good at it. And Kraz is really just a good, Total War player in general, so he's going to do fine. But I completely suck ass. Actually, Maha and I both completely suck ass. I think the joke earlier today was Maha goes, all right, well, I guess I'll just die as slowly as possible. I said, Maha, that's why we're really great teammates, because we play exactly the same way. We're just going to try to die as slow as possible, because it isn't inevitable. But, yeah. Actually, Maha's a lot better than I am at this shit, obviously. He's a really good Napoleon player, too. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to give him a go, but he'll make you work for it. He'll make you work for it. Actually, I have kind of a funny story. We were bored last night, and there were 5 of us, which is an awkward number to play a game with, right? So somebody had the idea of, let's do a naval battle, and one player gets the 122 gun ship or the first-rate ship, and then the other 4 players all get 5th-rate ships. And oh, that's a good example. Check it out. This is an example of the small rifle unit. See, it has 42 men. That's the kind of rifle unit that you can buy. Now, these guys do have a little bit longer range, but obviously there's only 42 men in the unit, so as opposed to, the over 100 that everybody else has. But anyway, we were bored and we were like, let's play a naval game. And what we did was one player had a big first-rate ship, and then 4 other players against him had a bunch of 5th-rate ships. So it was 4 ships against 1, and Mahakar commanded the 122 or the first-rate ship against actually the other 4 guys here, Z, Leo, Kraz, and I. and we all had 5th rates, and Mahakar beat the fuck out of us. It wasn't even funny. My ship actually exploded. It blew apart, which was kind of neat. I don't think I'd ever seen that before. But somehow I think Maha has a little more experience at naval battles than the rest of us did, so I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, he is pretty good at the naval shit. If you ever want to play a naval game, that might be somebody to look up to go for you. It looks like Kraz's army chain routes now. And so this should be about the beginning of the end. More appropriately, the end of the beginning. Because this shit was over as soon as it spawned. There really wasn't a whole lot of hope for our team to win with a dumbass like me on it. So it looks like Maha's trying to do some emergency flanking shit to get on... or that's T-Bone, man. Sorry, I've been backwards like the last 5 minutes. Maha's there. T-Bone's here. T-Bone's doing some emergency shit. So T-Bone's working on him. Sorry, I'm a jackass. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the guys in the blue and white flags here, that's T-Bone. Green and white, that's Maha right there. Ah, worst commentary ever. But yeah, that's what's going on. I think Kraz and I are dead now. So it's really just a matter of these guys wrapping up on T-Bone. T-Bone's a pretty cautious player. He's a pretty cautious player. I'm probably the worst person to be on his team because I'm pretty impulsive, I think. Need to work on that. But I'm getting a lot better at playing this mod. This is one of like the second or third games we played, and then we played a handful of games after it, and I think we actually won one of them. So I'm getting a little bit better at working with it. But those are some deals with the NTW3 mod, and I hope you liked watching it. And I think you should try it out, man. Get some more games up in the lobby. You know, it's like yesterday I logged in the afternoon for me, and there were 4 NTW3 mod games being hosted. So that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm gonna try to get in there, and I'll log in, and if I see one, I'll join it, and yada yada yada. I think he's just going straight. Looks like he's going for a fucking melee charge here or some shit. No, he's just lining up to shoot at him. Yeah, but anyway, they are going to surround poor T-Bone here. If he was smart, should get on the other side of the river. It's probably not an option, right? Probably not an option, but hey, y'all should check this out. It's really cool. It's a cool way to play the game. And yeah, I'm gonna check you in the next video, and I'll probably just give you a look at the results screen. Yeah, so it looks like about here they're about to take out the last of T-Bone's units, and that should end the game. So good game, guys. Good to play with you. And there you go. There you go. Who sucked the most? Whoa, I got more kills than I thought I did. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll check you in the next video. Bye.